So let's start with a headline that is absolutely dominating every single feed right now. Bill Gates.
You can't avoid it. It's the story everyone is talking about.
The allegations here are incredibly specific. And we need to be really careful with the source material here. These aren't emails that were actually sent to Gates, are they?
No. And that is the critical legal distinction we have to make. The DOJ release includes a folder of draft emails. They were found in Jeffrey Epstein's personal account.
So he's writing them to himself.
Seemingly to himself, or maybe he drafted them to send and just never hit the button.
Which, honestly, is almost creepier. It reads like a ledger of blackmail, like he was just cataloging his ammunition.
It functions exactly like a ledger. So in these drafts, Epstein alleges that Gates sought his help for, quote, extramarital encounters. But then it pivots to something medical, and this is where the details get extremely granular.
Oh, I know.
The drafts claim Gates asked for advice on dealing with a sexually transmitted infection that he supposedly contracted from Russian girls.
It's the specificity of it all that makes it stick in people's minds. But then there's that detail about Melinda. The draft claims Gates allegedly requested antibiotics to, quote, surreptitiously give to Melinda to hide the infection.
That word, surreptitiously,
It just implies a level of deceit that goes so far beyond just cheating.
it paints a picture of, frankly, sociopathic behavior. But, and this is a massive but, we have to look at the motive here. Why does this document even exist?
Right.
The prevailing theory is that Epstein drafted these notes specifically as ammunition.
Because the relationship had soured. Gates had cut him off.
Correct. Epstein was losing his access to one of the most powerful men on the planet. So these drafts likely represent Epstein just brainstorming, like, okay, what do I have on him? What can I threaten him with? How do I get him back in the room?
So it's a break glass in case of emergency file.
Precisely. Now, Gates did an interview almost immediately with 9 News Australia. He was categorical. He said, and I'm quoting, "That email was never sent. The email is false."
His team is arguing this is just fiction from a desperate criminal.
That's the argument.
But here is the thing about reputational damage. It doesn't need a court conviction. It doesn't even need the allegation to be fully true to do damage. We heard Melinda French Gates on that NPR podcast yesterday. Did you catch that?
I did. It was incredibly raw.
She didn't get into the specifics. I mean, who would expect her to? But she expressed this unbelievable sadness. She said the details brought back memories of painful times.
What struck me was her boundaries. She effectively just said, I am not answering for him anymore.
Yeah.
She made the point that her ex-husband needs to answer for his own associations. She has completely separated her narrative from his.
It just shows the long tail of the mistake, doesn't it? Gates admitted years ago that spending time with Epstein was a huge mistake. But what we're seeing now, in 2026, is that you can't just apologize and move on.
No, the specifics of the association, even if Epstein exaggerated them, they just stick to you. It's the stain of the orbit. Just being in the gravity of something like that subjects you to this kind of scrutiny forever. It forces people to ask, why were you there in the first place?
Speaking of scrutiny and immediate consequences, let's pivot to the legal world. Because while Gates has the resources to fight a PR war, other people are literally cleaning out their desks as we speak.
Yes. This brings us to Brad Karp.
Now, for anyone who doesn't follow big law, Brad Karp isn't a household name like Gates. But in New York and D.C., he is a titan. He was, until Wednesday, the chairman of Paul Weiss.
And to put that in perspective, Paul, Weiss isn't just a law firm, it's the firm. They represent ExxonMobil, Amazon, JP Morgan. They are the cleanup crew for corporate America.
And Karp resigned as chairman immediately.
He did. And the emails here are fascinating because they show how the lines just get so blurred. Paul, Weiss has always maintained they never legally represented Epstein. But the emails show a relationship that was shockingly cozy for a non-client.
We're seeing emails where Karp is thanking Epstein for a once-in-a-lifetime dinner. He's asking for personal favors like help getting his son a job on a Woody Allen movie.
That's the favor trading economy. But for a legal ethicist, the smoking gun, the thing that probably terrified the partners at the firm, is an email from 2019.
Okay.
Karp reviewed a draft legal filing for Epstein. This was when his lawyers were arguing against reopening his old plea deal. Karp reads it and emails Epstein saying it was overwhelmingly persuasive.
Wait, stop there for a second. So you had the chairman of one of the world's top law firms offering, what, off-the-books validation for a sex offender's defense strategy.
It's effectively informal legal counsel. He's cheering on the strategy. It validates Epstein. It tells him, you're right, you're the victim here. It emboldens him.
And then there's the breach of trust. This M document.
This is what likely torpedoed him. Karp allegedly shared a confidential stock sale agreement of a client just called M in the docs with Epstein, and he explicitly wrote, "Please don't let him know that I shared it."
Wow. I mean, if I'm a client of Paul Weiss and I hear the chairman is leaking my confidential documents to Jeffrey Epstein just to, what, impress him, I'm pulling my business.
That's the breach. It shows how desperate these powerful people were to be useful to Epstein. He was a hub. If you wanted to be in the in crowd, you had to bring him offerings. Sometimes it was money, sometimes access, and in this case, it appears it was confidential information.
It's like Epstein was this bizarre mirror, and everyone wanted to see themselves reflected in his eyes as important or connected. Which, I guess, brings us to the art world. Another resignation.
David Ross, former director of the Whitney Museum, and until this week, a chair at the School of Visual Arts.
This story, honestly, this one made me feel physically ill. It's not about legal maneuvering. It's about normalizing something just horrific.
The emails show Epstein pitching an idea to Ross. He proposed an art exhibition. The title was Statutory.
Statutory, as in statutory rape.
That is the only way to read it. And the concept he pitched was to feature teenage girls and boys where they look nothing like their true ages.
A normal human reaction to that email is to call the police. Or at the very least, blocks the sender. You do not entertain that.
But that's not what happened. Ross didn't recoil. He replied, "You are incredible."
You are incredible.
And then suggested making it a web-based exhibition to make it a totally global platform.
That phrase just hangs there.
It's the sycophancy. In that circle, these obsessions weren't treated as crimes or moral atrocities. They were treated as, like, edgy, avant-garde concepts. It shows the social circle was complicit not just through silence, but through active encouragement. They intellectualized the abuse.
It's the emperor's new clothes, but the emperor is a predator, and everyone is applauding his vision. It's deeply, deeply disturbing.
It's a complete failure of moral judgment in exchange for proximity to wealth. And that is the pattern we see over and over again.
Speaking of proximity, we have to talk about the royals. Prince Andrew has been the face of this scandal in the UK for years. He settled his case. He's been stripped of his titles. What could these files possibly add?
Well, it comes down to the timeline. Andrew's whole defense has been, I went to see him to break off the friendship, that he was doing the honorable thing.
The honorable exit strategy, right.
Right. But we have emails here from 2010. Remember, Epstein was convicted in 2008, so he's a registered sex offender who has served time, and Andrew is inviting him to Buckingham Palace.
To the palace, after the conviction.
And the quote is, "We could have dinner at Buckingham Palace and lots of privacy."
Lots of privacy. In the context of Epstein, that phrase carries a lot of weight. That does not sound like a breakup dinner.
It suggests the secrecy was the whole point. And then there's the visual part. The release includes a new photo. It's undated, but it appears to show Prince Andrew on all fours, or sort of crouching over a woman.
And we don't know who the woman is.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But visually, it just destroys any remaining shred of dignity. It reinforces every negative perception. It's grotesque.
And the fallout isn't just with the royals. We have Peter Mandelson, the UK politician.
A huge figure in the Labour Party, resigned from the party this week. The files show bank records where Epstein just sent him money.
Direct transfers.
Yes. Mandelson's defense is that he doesn't recall receiving it.
Doesn't recall. That's a bold defense for a bank transfer.
It's a politician's defense. But the deeper allegation in the files, and this circles back to the intelligence angle, is that Mandelson may have shared sensitive UK or EU government information with Epstein.
This keeps coming up. The idea that Epstein wasn't just a rich guy partying, but he was an intelligence broker. He was collecting information.
That is the through line. He didn't just collect friends, he collected assets.
Let's talk about the geniuses he collected. Because Silicon Valley and Hollywood are all over these documents. Elon Musk is in the headlines again.
He is. The files show emails from around 2012, 2013 about a trip to Epstein's island.
And there's a quote from Musk asking, what day night will be the wildest party on your island?
And taken in isolation, that looks damning. It implies a certain kind of experience. However, to be fair, you have to look at the whole thread.
Okay.
Musk posted on X, denying he ever went, called Epstein a creep. And the experts who analyzed the metadata say the trip was rescheduled multiple times and probably never happened.
So the curiosity was there, but the act might not have been.
That seems to be the consensus. But again, you have to ask yourself, why is Elon Musk in 2012 emailing a convicted sex offender about wild parties in the first place?
It shows that conviction wasn't a deal breaker for the tech elite.
Not at all. Now, Casey Wasserman, he's the chairman of the LA Olympics. This is not about scheduling conflicts.
Right.
This is direct correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell. Wasserman asks, in writing, what he has to do to see her in a tight leather outfit. And Maxwell replies, offering a massage that would drive a man wild.
It's just so transactional. It's this boys' club mentality where women are just providers of services.
We see that language everywhere. Steve Tisch, the New York Giants co-owner, is in the files emailing about whether certain women were civilian or pro.
Civilian or pro.
It completely dehumanizes them. It categorizes women solely by their availability for purchase. That is the mindset of this entire network.
Okay, we have to address the elephant in the room. Or the two elephants.
Yeah.
Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. They are both in the files. They're dominating the news cycle.
You can't have a conversation about Epstein without them. But this is where our mission matters most. We have to be incredibly precise about what is actually in these documents versus what's just internet rumor.
Right. So Trump first.
The files contain tips that were submitted to the FBI regarding Trump. Now, the DOJ itself has flagged that some of these tips were submitted right before the 2020 election.
So the timing is suspicious.
Right. They suggest they could be unsubstantiated or politically motivated. Trump's team is pointing to a deposition from Epstein's house manager, a guy named Juan Alessi.
And what did he say?
Alessi testified under oath that Trump never stayed at the house and never had a massage.
So Trump is using that testimony to claim total exoneration.
Correct. He's arguing the files prove he wasn't involved in the illicit stuff, even if he knew Epstein socially in the 90s.
And
Clinton is different. He appears in flight logs and photos. We've known for a long time he flew on the plane. These files confirm his presence.
But is there a smoking gun of a crime?
Not in these specific files, no. His team emphasizes he had no knowledge of the crimes, and the travel was for Clinton Foundation work. So the files place him there, but they don't provide a specific allegation of abuse like we see with, say, Prince Andrew.
It feels like everyone is looking for a gotcha on the other side, but the reality is just messy.
It rarely is neat. But there is one massive piece of the puzzle that we are not seeing, and this is the part that frustrates victims' advocates the most. The grand jury transcripts.
Right, with 3.5 million pages, why don't we have those?
This is a crucial legal point. Judge Richard Berman ruled last year, August 2025, that the Epstein grand jury transcripts would stay sealed.
But the act is called the Transparency Act. How do you justify hiding the grand jury?
Because the American legal system treats grand juries as sacredly secret. They're designed that way so witnesses can speak freely without fear of retribution.
But Epstein is dead. He can't be charged.
True, but the witnesses are alive. The victims are alive. And people who might have been called to testify but were found innocent are alive. Judge Berman ruled that the public interest, basically our curiosity, did not outweigh the privacy and safety of those individuals.
So legally, there is a line. Transparency has a limit when it starts endangering the living just to expose the dead.
Exactly. Rule 6E of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure is incredibly strict. Curiosity just isn't enough to unseal them.
So we're left with this massive dump of documents. But we know there's a locked room we can't get into.
And that's the reality of the case. We have to make sense of the story with the pieces we have.
So where does this leave us? We've got resignations piling up, tech moguls and royals are scrambling.
It means the Epstein era isn't over. For a long time, the strategy for these powerful men was just to wait it out. They thought, I didn't do anything illegal. I just went to a dinner. I just sent one email.
They thought they could survive the association.
Right. But what we are seeing in 2026 is a shifting moral baseline. Corporate boards, museums, law firms, they're finally saying no. They're saying the judgment you showed by being there, by validating him, by calling him incredible, that failure of judgment disqualifies you from leadership now.
It's a reckoning. It's not about criminal charges anymore. It's about a total failure of character.
Exactly. It's about the blindness of power. Karp, Gates, Ross, these are brilliant men in their fields. But the allure of Epstein blinded them to red flags that should have been neon bright. They suspended their critical thinking because they wanted to be part of the club.
It forces you to ask, at what point does networking become complicity?
That is the question every single person named in these files is having to answer today. And for many of them, the answer is costing them their careers.